Great. Yeah, congratulations on the Pit. Wow, what an incredible show. Your episodes are incredible. It was fun rewatching them too, like going back. It's so intense.
Well, you're one of the brave people that could watch them twice.
I know. It is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it in my rewatch, like there's so many storylines going on in in all the episodes, but how do you balance that with the camera? Is it all in the script to kind of help you, or is it like you kind of working on the
Well,
fly in some spots?
I think the show is a very smart show in the way that it's set up because, we're 99% on a stage at Warner Brothers. Our writers, when they are writing the episodes, which is something I discovered in the first season, was that they actually write to the set, like they write to the stage. And then when us directors get a chance to come in and sort of block it up and dream up, what we'd like to do in this next hour, it's it's weird because sometimes as a director you come up with blocking and the writer is like, wow, I don't know how, and in this show I think it's a little bit more of cousins because you block it and they're like, exactly, like it times out perfectly to walk from north 4 to south 15 or something like that. So they're just really good scripts. They're really full. The scripts are probably an average of 70 something pages.
Wow.
So there's so much information in there. There's always something to cover. And then you're in the middle of a live ER. So there's no shortage of things to cover. There is always, someone else who is in a different state of peril than maybe your main character or whatnot. So yeah, there is just so much that's going on that, yes, it's on the page, but at the same time, it gives you the ability to capture so much more.
That's so interesting. I love that. I love all your episodes, by the way, rewatching them all. But I want
I'll send you a check in the mail. Very kind words.
I'm gonna highlight two. Episode 10, 4 p.m. has one of my favorite, I think it's one of the best acting scenes of the year. And it's between Dr. Robbie and Langdon that kind of towards the end of the episode. What was it like filming that electric emotional scene? Because I think it's just fantastic.
Well, both of those performers, I mean, they're both great performers in their own right. Noah has so much experience. Then here's Patrick Ball, who is like, fresh on the scene, but so exciting. Like, you're talking about one of those scenes and because it was the very last scene of the episode, waiting that entire episode, working with each of them on sort of like these micro beats because it's not an important part to Robbie as yet until it becomes important. And then there's obviously the whole suspicion of Santos. Did you say something? But it spills over in the most amazing way because it just happened to be a conversation, I think, between mentor and mentee. Call it father and son, if you will, call it just anyone who's looking out for anyone in a career field, in life or whatnot. We all tend to teach from a bit of wisdom that maybe we've gotten before the person. And that's why I started with saying Noah has so much more, wisdom as opposed to Patrick, who is now getting started, but so exciting. And it was just something to see both of those ships on their own trajectory come into this really lonely hallway, right? This is one of the rarest times that we don't see 75 people in the background. And they have this really hard conversation that for me, it was like a breakup. I felt like our 1 through 9, we had done a great job of showing them fall in love.
Yeah.
I always talk to Patrick Ball about being the Friday Night Lights quarterback. You are the star. You come in to save it. You do so many amazing things that we all say, God, I wish I were that blessed by above, right? But in this one moment, you're going to realize that you're doing everything wrong, or as well, is it a scenario of it doesn't matter how much good you do. Usually we just get remembered by the one bad thing. And having that soup to make this brilliant breakup, I like to shoot scenes like this, like as if it's lovers saying goodbye. And for any movies that were shows that we all love like that, we never want it answered. We never want to know, like, we want to be left on this cliffhanger to say, are they going to get back together? Like, like Langdon, it was so abrupt. But once again, my just throwing that shout out back to the writers, man, those were our scripts. Our scripts were, once again, like I said, very well planned. And I think, maybe there was something when they were dreaming this up and they were writing this that they knew way ahead of time before any of us did. But it was just really spectacular to watch while it was happening. And it was even spectacular to watch after we cut it and turned it into a true scene.
I still think about there's a moment where I think Noah throws his jacket at Patrick.
Yeah.
And he kind of quivers like a child. It's
because it's we had always there had always been debate as to how violent that scene would get. I think at one time we had even talked about it just sort of came up in a production meeting if we would need stunts, if we would need sort of that help.
Wow.
And I thought, just like in a breakup, it's, gentle aggression is really painful because in a breakup, you can almost see that the other person is so hurt by your actions that they are also restraining themselves. So it isn't just about the whack of the bag to the chest or how forcefully he opens the locker. I think it breaks any of our hearts when we now have broken someone's heart that is in love with us. And now you're realizing that they are trying to do everything to somehow keep it together and to tell us we fucked up.
Oh, I love hearing that. That's amazing. I like to call the other episode that I really love is the 7 p.m. episode, which I call it's kind of like the Empire Strikes Back in the trilogy of Pitt. There's so many things I could ask you about. What was the handoff like though between? I feel like you probably had to, really, because it seems so seamless. But I was wondering, with directors, what was the handoff like?
Well, the joys of 12 and 13. Amanda Marcellus, who is shared the co-EP duties with me for season 1. That's just how we were ever since the day we met, and I hope we'll still just kind of continue to be like that. I don't think every single director gets along with every single director they meet, vice versa. It's just a business of people. But Amanda has a very similar energy to mine, where we've probably sort of had other career paths or other things in life, I think, before we maybe picked up this line of work. And so we have a very similar way that we do communicate with others, and just sort of the ease of approach that we take to our jobs. It's like the swan on the lake. No one sees the legs paddling a million miles an hour under the surface. But on top, we try to stay pretty calm. And I never forget, we had these mass casualty episode meetings, Amanda and I, and there was a architectural sort of live model of the set. And there were beds, and there was, whether this is a gunshot wound victim. And we were literally playing Monopoly with the pit because it looked like a Monopoly game if those photos ever come out. It was so amazing what Nina and her team were brilliant. We were able, because those episodes required more blood in the ER, blood on the floor, things that we couldn't screw up the continuity of. So the only way Amanda and I could prep those 2 episodes were with our Monopoly boards. And we had specialized meetings for that. We would figure out, does this gurney go left? Does this gurney go right? Who goes up? Do we see this gurney leave? And we hadn't had another meeting or a set of meetings like that for the entire season. And you got the sense that these 2 episodes are not only special, but they're tied into these major events, right? Like you think about the shooting that happened in Las Vegas. And we knew daily we go to work with Dr. Joe Sachs. We go to work with our entire medical team that's there at the show. And I think there's a bit of responsibility from us as storytellers that we are working with the very people whose stories we're telling. And we wanted to do a great, great job. So that's why there was just not a little, but there was a lot more extra prep involved in both of those episodes. And like I said, I think Amanda and I somehow treated them as one. I didn't want to do anything that would be detrimental to what she had done in 12, and I think she teed things up for me perfectly.
Yeah. Your episode though was probably the most talked of. Like, I don't know if you were on social media that night, but
No.
people were freaking out, like in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And it was because of the scene with Dr. Robbie, like after he talks to Jake.
Yeah.
So what was it like seeing everybody talk? I feel like it's like peak Pitt. I mean, I still feel like we might maybe not have reached that yet, but it was just like, whoa, everybody is loving this show. I didn't
Yeah.
know if you were like aware of that.
I wasn't. I started hearing some kind things from people just saying, "Hey, I really love 13." I stay out of the news. That's just part of being a Rasta man. I find like the news sometimes makes people feel ways about people, and I don't feel like that. So I
Yeah.
tend to not subscribe. But every now and again, something gets through. And yeah, I think I would have had to have been under a rock if I didn't know that people enjoyed 13. And the thing about 13, especially that scene, episode 13 was always scheduled to be shot, uh, half of it in 2024, the other half in 2025 because of the Christmas hiatus.
Oh.
So going into our break, we all felt good. We all knew what we were doing. And I asked Noah and Taj for a rehearsal over the break and maybe a refresher once we come back at the top of the year. I didn't know if people were going to gain 15 pounds over I didn't know what was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I said, let's just kind of bring it back to one. But if we can, we could do a little Zoom thing over the break. And then Los Angeles caught on fire. So there were so many emotions built up into just even trying to complete the end of this. And during that time, a silly little thing happened with me. I have two sons. The younger one wanted to test his, you test your parents as you grow. And he told a little white lie. And, I talked to him about it, and I told him it really hurt my heart that he would lie to me. And I didn't realize the tears or the emotions that would ensue. And I realized in that very moment, because I was a guy who sort of grew up like Taj, I had pseudo stepdads like Noah. My real father was not there. And I realized in that moment, God, it's really hard for fathers to stick around and go through the growth of young people, because it was really hard for me to do. So I sent Noah a note just for fathers. And this is the part of my career I like to call projecting instead of directing. Because I feel like when something happens to you or me in my job description, I think it's my job to sort of pass that feeling back through to the audience. And for Taj, I sent him a note that was sort of written from my 8-year-old, and just saying that, you know what, all a young man has is pride. He really hasn't earned anything else, and he's willing to fight for that pride. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's your dad, whether it's your stepdad or whatnot. So my direction for that scene was, Noah, when you're pleading with him, when you're everything, right? Taj, you don't care. You literally don't care. Give him your ass to kiss, because you have not matured yet to a point where you can understand where he's coming from. And then for Noah Wiley, I said, understand how much it sucks to be the dad that sticks around. This is your pseudo stepkid. His own father wasn't even there for this moment. And then on top of that, he blames you with the responsibility of losing his girlfriend while he's teary-eyed. So I felt like I was redirecting somehow a scene between me and my son. And those were the notes I gave. What ended up happening on top of that is the brilliant soup that we continue to discover at the Pitt. Noah ushers Taj out of the room, and he rushes back in. He hits that wall with all of the children's artwork, the mural. And as I like to put it, our hero finally had enough, and our hero finally collapsed. And that's the greatness of Noah Wiley, because he can take a note from something that happened to me. He can put that into the soup of the 12 episodes we've shot prior to this, the 5 months or so that we've all been here at work. And I really feel it was such a cathartic moment that he just let it all out. He walked out of the room, he gives up the wheelchair, he comes back in, and there's a moment when his body hits that wall before going down. that we all know, and that's what I was trying to do for the audience, was that's the moment that we all have at our respective jobs, in our respective lives, where I just need a quiet room really quick because I've got to be honest with the universe right now. And yeah, so if it wasn't for a performer like him, I don't know where that all or that whole soup would have turned into. But I really feel like that was the understanding that he, myself, the other directors, the writers, that's what we were looking for. You know, we really wanted something to show people that this is not an overly theatric, you know, like slapstick performance. We really want you guys to have a window into your own experience.
That is fascinating. You know what else it made me think of is, I'm just highlighting two of my favorite scenes, and I'm now wondering if they both almost like parallel each other in that, like, is Frank like a son figure to Noah? Jake is a son figure to Noah. Are these kind of like reflections of each other? And was that something you thought about when you're filming them?
No, because that's then, like I said, that's the brilliance of our show and the fact that it reflects real life.
Yeah.
You know, I think in real life, if we all had a little bit more conversations as opposed to just reading the news, we would find out so much more similarity, right? I mean, here's something that just from conversation, you just taught me, and I'm like, whoa, I did not even. I'm going to do a better job this season, okay? I want to pay attention to some more of those things.
Yeah. That's just so interesting. Like, oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you so much for this conversation. You like answered so many questions just by like questions I had just by talking. You answered like so many things. So.
No, you're a lot of fun to talk to, Megan.
Oh, great. I'm so glad. Yeah, this was such a pleasure. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Enjoy it. It's hot out
Thanks.
there.
I know. Well, it's cold here. It's cold where I am. So.
Oh, where are you?
Actually, I'm in Pittsburgh. I forgot to.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Are you shooting season 2? We should get coffee. Yeah.
We will be back. I think we'll be spending another glorious week in Pittsburgh again. It's just a great city. So we definitely hope to see a lot of you guys.
Yes. I can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.